How goes the family? Welcome back to Larry's Anything Goes. Hopefully, you guys are having a great and exceptional evening. Just got off the phone, talked to a friend about Elon Musk. Got nothing but love and respect for him, and people like him and they think like him. But I remember the statement that he made a couple days ago, and the meme has been going all around social media, and it was just interesting. And me and a friend of mine were pontificating about his statement, and his statement basically was drug dealers know more about being a successful entrepreneur than college graduates. And I don't advocate for drug dealing. I don't advocate for drug usage on any kind. I don't, but I will say that he was absolutely right, because we say this all the time. We get into these discussions online, no matter what platform you're on, all over the place, is that in order for an entrepreneur to be successful, they have to think outside of the box. They have to break down barriers. They have to be strategic. And when he's saying drug dealers, he's talking about successful drug dealers, not just your person selling weed outside of their mama's basement or something like that, or from their car or something like that. No, he's talking about the successful drug dealers from your, I'll go old school, from your Pablo Escobars to your Bumpy Knuckles, to, all people from that time frame and whatnot. As far as those people that were like big and they had networks and whatnot, not just within a city, but certain states and even throughout the world and whatnot. So because the big Freeway Ricky Ross, great example right there. I actually bought his book a couple of months ago and read his story. I actually got his entire story by reading his book, and it was good. But anyways, because I like to get into the mind of people and see how they think differently and whatnot. And so, anyways, the statement was made, and you had people that had the negative comments, you had people that have the positive. There's always the positives and the negatives. And I'm just saying this, like I said, I don't advocate for it, but I will say that not only the big back in the old school big successful drug dealers had networks. They weren't looking to always um, be at war with other crews and things of that nature. They actually were like, well, hey, we have these specific packages and whatnot. We'd rather parlay with you and partner with you, or have you purchase our package, than have to have a drug war and have the police all in our business and have the feds come knocking on our door. We're trying to make money and whatnot. But so they built relationships. In certain instances, they constantly self-educated themselves on certain matters, and they took on mentorship. They thought strategically. They wanted to see where the markets were at. How were certain products being moved in certain specific ways. How can they increase the value of their product and whatnot in order for them to raise the price on their specific product. That's what companies do on all levels. Like I said, I'm not advocating drug usage. I'm not advocating people selling drugs. I think it's horrible, and I would be straight up. But I get where Elon Musk's statement, where he's coming from. And it's that, because Elon Musk, he says he doesn't partnering up with college graduates. He wants to partner up with people that think outside of the box. The kind of people he has works at his organizations, like a SpaceX or a Tesla. They're not your everyday run of the mill employees. You know what I mean? So that's why that statement was not only accurate, but it was very true. They weren't a lot of the big successful quote unquote drug dealers weren't afraid to go to a new city or a town. They weren't afraid to go to a new state. They weren't afraid to go to another country and whatnot and build relationships. Great example, the movie American Gangster with Denzel Washington. This is a perfect example. Denzel Washington played Frank Green. I was like I'm going off the memory here, but this is during the Vietnam War era. So this is when security wasn't as tight. I guess you could say not as tight as it is now and whatnot. And it was a different time in the United States of America. But in the movie, and since the actual real Frank Green was on scene, I don't know how accurate it was, because Hollywood has to make things entertaining at the end of the day. It's the entertainment business. It's the entertainment industry. But Frank White he flew to Vietnam looking like he was a soldier in the military and whatnot. I believe a Marine. And his former brother-in-law hooked him up with a network of I think they produced heroin or yeah, I believe it was heroin from the Viet Cong. Okay, and he profited his drug business profited off of the Vietnam War in itself. And for African American man to do something like that back in the 1960s, 50s, and 60s and whatnot, from that perspective, from a gangster perspective, I guess you could say, was very abnormal because from a legal perspective, it wasn't abnormal for us. But for African American man on that level to be such a big drug dealer on that level, even great example because when you had the local New York City Police Department, or it was New Jersey, one or the other, but anyways, went to the feds and told them, hey, there's a black man that actually has this big major drug network between the United States and Vietnam and whatnot. And he's like, I don't believe it. You know, the guy from the feds, he's like, I don't believe this. But anyways, my point is, he was strategic in how he did things. He saw the product that was needed, the product that people wanted. He saw the area that he could take over. He built networks with other different crews and things of that nature. Because you remember, I know he like Cuba Gooding Jr. was another player and whatnot in the game and things of that nature. And you know, and various other people within the networks. They even tried to keep a low profile and whatnot. It wasn't trying to be flashy and things of that nature. But my point is that building networks, constantly educating yourself, knowing that you don't know everything, and always willing to take risks and think outside of the box, that is a characteristic of an entrepreneur. And the most successful drug dealers in history did those sort of things. You know, they thought outside of the box. They networked with people. I remember the movie Hoodlum. I'm going into my old, you know, I'm an 80s baby. So in the 90s and early 2000s, there was some great, you know, quote unquote, action-packed movies compared to today. You know, it's like today it's like you get onesies or twosies. Everything, right? Everything nowadays is based off of fiction, all fiction for the most part. It's a rarity you see any like real movies, you know what I mean? Real action-packed movies without all the triple special effects and whatnot, and dinosaurs and, you know, mythical characters popping out all over the place. But anyways, the movie Hoodlum. So you had Bumpy Knuckles, which played by Lawrence Fishburne. You had Frank Luciano. You had you know, Al Capone. You had all these people sitting down at the table. And they were like, hey, everybody's got their own section of New York City. Everybody has their own neighborhoods and blocks and whatnot. Here's the products that we're selling. This is the businesses that we're in. Because especially back in those days, like the 1930s, 1940s, and whatnot, like gangsters would like sell one product, but they owned businesses. Like that's one thing. Like they owned real estate. Heck, they ended up owning politicians back then. Like they owned police departments. Like it was a lot of corruption. You know, definitely don't advocate for that. But my point is, there was everybody was strategic. Everybody was about their business, and even though they were doing a lot of things that were illegal and whatnot, they were about building relationships. The Godfather, great example of that and whatnot. These people build relationships, and they knew that they could not be stagnated and just have the successful ones, obviously, were not trying to be stagnated, only doing one thing, and not trying to elevate and motivate and educate themselves. That's the thing. Like when I think of education, I don't always think a degree. I don't knock people getting. I have a degree. I don't knock people getting a degree. But I think when it comes to education in 2021, everybody has to have some sort of an entrepreneurial mindset. At least you might not own a job, but you have to be strategic in how you make your money. You have to be strategic in how you think, and just because you have a job doesn't mean you should allow that job to limit the elevation of your mind. That's the best way to put it. Because certain people, not everybody, that has a job, they allow their job to set the limit on Your job can set the limit on your income, but your job cannot set the limit on the elevation of your mind and how strategic you are with your income. That's the thing. Like a post I shared on Facebook today. My man Ronald Samuel, he shared it, and this post was real, and it's very accurate. And this is why a lot of people, unfortunately, stay in the just over broke category. And I'm going to read it right now, because that's what a job stands for. If you're not strategic with your income, you're supposed to use your income to do three things. In my personal opinion, I'm not giving out financial advice. I'm just saying this is what I've been doing for the last decade and a half, and I employ people to do the research and see how they can do it for themselves. But the post was on Dr. Royce Watkins' page, and it stated, average job. If I can get a raise at my 9 to 5 job, I'll be able to take more vacations and post pics on Instagram so people like me. Investor. If I can save 40% of my income and invest it in the markets, I'll get my own raise and push wheelbarrows full of money. And that's what it is. That's the two different mindsets of an employee has an investor mindset, or an employee that just wants to be average and basic. That's it. Hey, look, you saw me. I went on vacation to Texas. I had a good time, but when I get raises and when I get more customers that buy from my store, when I get more real estate property, I'm not thinking about just posting pictures on Instagram and let everybody be cool and like me. I'm not in high school. I'm good. You like me, you like me. You don't, you don't. My life will go on. But my point is, before I end this video off, is that really every word of the day should be strategic. That's why I made the video last about people playing chess versus people playing checkers. This post, what I just read off, the average job, that's the people playing checkers. The investor is playing chess. No other way to put it, family. There really isn't. Like my shirt says, I don't do drama. Behind it says, I do business. Down. Of course, somebody wants to call me when I'm going live. I don't do drama. I do business. But I will say with all sincerity that, and then before I end this video off, I'm going to close on this. Jay-Z, Damon Dash, I'm thinking off top of the head here on people who are basically business tycoons now, but used to be quote unquote successful drug dealers back in the day. But I'll just stick with them. They were successful at what they did. They didn't like being in the streets all the time and things of that nature, but they were successful in what they did because they were strategic. Like, I believe Jay-Z had to, because he was on the corner a lot doing obviously what he was doing back then, he had to memorize his rhymes. He never could write it down because he had to stay on guard and on point. So while he was standing out there selling drugs and whatnot, he was always thinking about rhymes in his head, and he had to memorize them. And that's how he got that technique. So he got used to just going to the studio, making music off of memory and not writing them down. So that's I end this video off on that. I know they had the issues in the past, but all I have to say is the music tycoons. I mean, they're the business tycoons now, in a sense where they own a multitude of businesses and they're continuously growing. Okay. Master P wasn't the best drug dealer, but he was a businessman. He always had a business mindset. That's another great example of a person who was in the streets, and now he's a business mogul. He's in the food industry. He's in the music industry, Hollywood. List goes on and on. There's so much going on. I can keep going. People that were in the streets doing certain things, and now they're some of the most successful entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? I can't put it any other way. So there's so many actors and actresses, rappers, singers that used to be in the streets doing this kind of stuff, and look where they are today. And that's just really how I have to end it off on that note. It's because I don't advocate drug usage. I don't advocate people selling drugs, but I advocate people being investors and business owners and real estate owners. That's what I advocate. So keeping it legal, keeping it straight. And Elon Musk, you just said it plain. I have to. It's an elevation of thought and how you look at things. The regular 9 to 5, and that's it. It's dead in 2021 and going into 2022. So on that note, family, do the great 3 free things. Like, share, and subscribe. Make money move so you will live broke like a fool. Take care.